That's great. So, hello everybody. Thanks for tuning in to Revolutionary Lumpen Radio. This episode is more of a casual chat with a good comrade of mine, a good comrade and supporter of Revolutionary Lumpen Radio, Ruadhán, who you all need to get to know a bit more and the work that they're doing. So this is an episode to do precisely just that. So welcome onto the show, Ruadhán.
Hello.
So as always, could you just start off with your background, so our listeners can get to know you a little before diving into the questions?
Sure. My name's Ruadhán Donnelly. I think I've been involved with left-wing politics since I was a kid. I was raised in quite a traditional working-class democratic socialist kind of household with Marx on the bookshelf, and I've been a Marxist since I was 13. That took the form, as it does for a lot of people that become Marxists quite young, joining the various communist parties in the so-called United Kingdom. I really did try my best there. But in terms of actually being a communist, the last couple of years, I would say, has been the enlightening period for me. The point at which I realised that you can sit there and have the correct ideas as much as you want. You can sit there and have the most perfect ideas on the planet, a clear plan for how to get a utopia, and it matters nothing if you're not out there on the streets actually doing the work, right? So I'd say that's my background. I come from a Marxist tradition, if you like, but I'm definitely part of what I hope is a new synthesis of a new model for how we as communists need to organise and operate. That's a terrible background, but there you go. There it is.
That's cool. I mean, you just told us basically Marx on the bookshelf. You just grew up around Marxist ideas. Naturally, you become a Marxist because of the revolutionary strategy and scientific socialism. So, I mean, that was just an interesting point that you made. You joined various orgs, you tried really hard, but you didn't consider yourself actually being a communist until your Enlightenment era. What was it about these organisations that just didn't really feel like you were doing all that you could do as a communist, or that there was more to the struggle?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I will say the only party that I will actually take the time to condemn are the CPGBML, which, I'm not even going to waste my breath. Just know they're fascists. They're social, they will use whatever. But in terms of the mainstream communist parties in the so-called United Kingdom, they're filled with fantastic people. They're, really passionate people that really care. But the problem is it is almost, because I was part of the CPB, I was part of the YCL. I went to a young communist summer camp, which I think was a fantastic idea. There was, always had access to theory and literature. That wasn't a problem. If I did feel a bit, put down because I didn't know if I didn't know exactly who wrote what and whom, there was a bit of patronising. But the problem was there was absolutely no work, absolutely no practice, all theory. And that is, in my opinion, it seems to be the modus operandi of the imperial core left. I have no idea why there is no service work, why there is no praxis, why there is what the mainstream communists in in this so-called United Kingdom like to do is read a lot of books and go on a lot of marches, and they don't like to teach people how to read or feed them or clothe them or, do any of the necessary work. I think primarily what the main reason why I left those organizations, the main reason why I feel they aren't revolutionary is because they're not connected to the struggle, because they don't do any struggling. I don't believe attending a protest is struggle. It's important. It's very important. I don't believe it is like revolutionary praxis, because you can have you can have protests in any form of economic system, any government, and they often have. Very rarely have they changed the world. They only really change the world when they get violent, and they only get violent when there is a mass organization of people behind them. And if you want a mass organization of people, you have to take care of people. You know, you have to usurp the state. That's what a dual power is all about. And there's a very, like, I can't tell, and I think it might be both, whether it's an arrogance of, we have the correct ideas, the people will come to us, we have the correct ideas, they will come to us, which, by the way, that's not true. If people are hungry, they'll go to whoever has food. Don't kid yourself. And the second point is that I think there is so much like interfactional bullshit. And I think that's out of an individualistic mindset. It's out of a bourgeois mindset. I think it's out of a Labour aristocratic mindset of, you know, if you don't agree with me 100%, if you have a disagreement about a certain historical period, then not only, you know, are you not my comrade, you're my enemy. To even have that kind of, well, I'll say, you know, the Black Panthers had a rainbow coalition. That rainbow coalition included what we would say, actually, these are just liberals, right? These were, at the time, they're just radical liberals. But they worked in coalition with them because the material benefit of them being there was that thousands more children got fed, you know? Yeah, that would, those, I think that's my main issue with those parties. Sorry, Shibby, I'm rambling on.
No, that was great stuff, comrade, and you know, all day this is just music to my ears. I love you for it, because we're very much on the same page here. But it does seem like, obviously, and you can't blame them, the left, Marxists, socialists don't have these revolutionary politics. You know, you touched upon protesting, picketing, you know, being good only in the sense that it lets people know what's happening, but it doesn't bring about any serious change. And you could say that people are content with that kind of organising rather than, you know, dual power base building strategies, because, as you said, they're not involved in the struggle, so you don't particularly see the benefits over political strategy that nobody in the UK is particularly involved in besides yourself and us here now starting off. So they haven't really got any experience to go off. In fact, well, it kind of stuns me, because the Black Panthers were all about base building, dual power. Literally what they done was organise the Lumpen proletariat on the streets, the people who are hungry. Let's just have a little quote out here from the ideology of the Black Panther Party that's been going through my mind. And, you know, it's just like, the more I read on the Black Panthers, they literally feel and think and have recognised the exact same phenomena I have on Costa Lumpen, except that they've worded it, one, a lot better, and they've actually put it into text. So it's like amazing how much like this resonates with the Lumpen phenomena and the other classes of the proletarian today. Just like this quote from the ideology of the Black Panther Party by Eldridge Cleaver goes, "The students focus their rebellions on the campuses, and the working class focus its rebellions on the factories and picket lines. But the Lumpen finds itself in the peculiar position of being unable to find a job, and therefore is unable to attend the universities. The Lumpen has no choice but to manifest its rebellion in the university of the streets." He goes on to say, "It's very important to recognise that the streets belong to the Lumpen, and that it is in the streets that the Lumpen will make their rebellion." And I think that it's important. I've written about it, I haven't published it, but the roles that the students, the workers and the Lumpen have, the roles that they play in revolution should be different. For example, the the students are out there and they can organise on the campuses and they're already in the city centre, so it's convenient for them to join the picket lines, whereas workers aren't focusing its rebellions in the factories anymore because we're a service industry, so workers are just focusing the rebellions by joining the Labour Party and standing for Jeremy Corbyn or like Bernie Sanders, it seems to be. And even meshing with the student class with their protests and their picket lines, but the lumpen might be too poor to get into the city centre, so they don't even join these organisations. And I mean, they just spend all the time on the streets. You know what I'm saying? The streets belong to the lumpen.
It is so important to have a class analysis of what's going on in this country. And let's be frank about this. Let's make this very clear. The radical left wing of the Labour Party that we might have commonality with enough to ally with are part of the proletariat. The proletariat in the imperial core, by percentage-wise, if not by just the material reality of imperialist super profits, behaves and has a class interest more aligned with the Labour aristocracy than it does with the what we might term the real proletariat, right? With the traditional proletariat that we think of, because imperialist super profits make it so that even if you're earning like 15k a year doing some like shitty horrible job, it's still actually more than you benefit from the imperialist super profits, not only in terms of how much you're paid, but in terms of how the society around you is structured, all your infrastructure, all the roads and the railways and the canals in this country built by immigrant labour, for example.
Yeah.
So
can I just throw in and just
ahead.
as well on these similarities, you mentioned the roads and the infrastructure that obviously people benefiting from the imperial core, but also you go in, the houses are decorated, they've got nice cabinets in the hall and in the kitchen, and the cabinets are very organised. Some of them have got ornaments on the TVs, magnets from the holidays in which they've been in. So, they've managed to do up the household. And also all the materials which all these are made of come from abroad, from exploited places, from exploited minerals or resources and metals. And then you have the service industry, which they themselves can go out and they can have food prepared for them, and the ingredients from that food are from essentially banana republics, and all of these things. So that like even the food is from imperialist victim nations, as well as literally everything in their lives. So it makes sense that if they look around in the house that they're trying to make dead nice, and they just in those ways they're so much more similar to the lifestyles of the Labour aristocracy than the lumpen, who literally have fuck all, and like the houses aren't decorated because they're literally struggling to get fucking cheap food day to day.
And I think that's the primary reason why, we know electoralism is bunk anyway, but I think that's one of the reasons why this so-called left in this country is useless. Because if they had if they actually analysed the class, they would realise actually in the imperial core it's the lumpen, the revolution. The lumpen have nothing to lose. The proletariat had nothing to lose in the 1900s, perhaps, in this country, or it didn't. Well, for example, it had nothing to lose in 1917 in Russia. They have at least a percentage of them. I would argue the majority, if it's slim, have something to lose. So, but the lumpen do not. And in fact, the actual population of the lumpen proletariat in the imperial core, in England at the very least, is very high.
Yeah.
And it's not even acknowledged, because there are members of the lumpen that, most people don't know their class really, but there are members of the lumpen, of course. It's almost like a small class structure within a class structure. You have lumpen bourgeoisie, you have lumpen aristocrats, and their class interest is also, they want to keep the system as it is, because by continuing to have a lumpen, they continue to have people that they can exploit. I think that really fundamentally that not seeing the lumpen as the revolutionary class in the imperial core is like the wrong turn off the motorway. You can have a perfect map, you can have the best car full of petrol, but you're going to take a wrong turn and you're never going to get to revolution because you fundamentally have misunderstood. You still think the proletariat is the revolutionary class. Well, not in 2020, not in the imperial core, not when there's absolutely, when, 90% of industrial goods in this country are not produced in this country. So I think that that's something that is completely ignored because they see the analysis, they see workers and peasant alliance, which in fact is what we need to replace peasant with lumpen, Shibby. That's what we need to do, right? Worker and lumpen alliance. They see worker and peasant and they think, oh, well, there's no peasants anymore, so it's just about the workers. And it just, I think fundamentally it comes from... I've
always called people on like benefits, peasants, like...
Yeah, what was serfs even? Well, if you, I spoke about this with you. I was in Glasgow. I was in a housing office, a council, some kind of, housing outreach, and I was speaking to them. And there was a homeless fella at the table next to me, and he was in Glasgow, and he said, I'm registered as homeless in Edinburgh. Can I come here to Glasgow and also register as homeless here so that way, whether it's a house in Edinburgh or a house in Glasgow, I can get it? Because he just wanted somewhere to live. He didn't get... And the lady said, no, and in fact, you need to go back to Edinburgh. Otherwise, we will mark you down as no longer in that city and therefore you're no longer entitled to housing. Mm-hmm. So they punished a man who had just taken a train or a bus or God knows how he got the money to go to a different city in the hopes that he would have a roof over his head. And they tried to take that roof away from him. Now, if that isn't a serf who is bound to the land, I don't know what is.
Well, for now, the homeless diaspora, but his diaspora is just basic human fucking living conditions. Damn. But let's just go on to some lumpen analysis because we were talking about that. Let's hear about that from other Marxists historically, and then we'll go back into actual dual building and base power as a political strategy. As a contradiction to what we've previously discussed, such as picketing and protests. So, I mean, this is again Eldridge Cleaver ideology, the Black Panther Party under contradictions within the proletariat of the USA, but you could extend that to say in the imperial core. So, in both the mother country and the black colony, the working class is the right wing of the proletariat, and the lumpen proletariat is the left wing. Within the working class itself, we have a major contradiction between the unemployed and the employed. And we definitely have a major contradiction between the working class and the lumpen. Some blind, so-called Marxist-Leninists accuse the lumpen of being parasites upon the working class. This is a stupid charge derived from reading too many of Marx's footnotes and taking some of his offhand scurrilous remarks for holy writ. In reality, it is accurate to say that the working class, particularly the American working class, is a parasite upon the heritage of mankind, of which the lumpen is being totally robbed by the rigged system of capitalism, which in turn has thrown the majority of mankind upon the junk heap while it buys off a percentage of the jobs and security. The working class that we must deal with today shows little resemblance to the working class of Marx's day. In the days of its infancy, insecurity and instability, the working class was very revolutionary and carried forward the struggle against the bourgeoisie. But through long and bitter struggles, the working class has made some inroads into the capitalist system, carving out a comfortable niche for itself. The advent of labour unions, collective bargaining, the union shop, social security and other special protective legislation has castrated the working class, transforming it into the bought-off labour movement. A most unrevolutionary, reformist-minded movement that is only interested in higher wages and more job security. The labour movement has abandoned all basic criticism of the capitalist system of exploitation itself. Yeah, spit and bars. Obviously, there's some contrast between US and UK. However, that's pretty much how it's been when you have these left-wing Labour, working class people commandeer revolutionary politics and then spread their reaction and their reformism and hate towards the lumpen class, towards all of the newcomers into the movement. So what we have is this tension between the lumpen and the workers, just brought out even more so, with many people even scoffing at the lumpen for exactly these reasons, as for apparently being parasites, etc. Which is which is highly hypocritical, because the workers are of course consuming a lot more of imperialist plunder than the lumpen, as we mentioned earlier. So
yeah, I mean, what a fantastic bit there. It comes from reading too much of Marx's footnotes. Fantastic. And, spot on. This is my issue. And I think this is that actually elucidates what I'm about to say really well. Of course, both theory and praxis is important. One without the other, you can't do it. But in terms right now, and I would venture, even though I'm not in America, in the US as well as here in the so-called United Kingdom, we need practice. We've got enough theory, right? If anything, we've got too much people talking shit. Talking about, every day I see on Twitter some new party and it's got like a massive constitution and here's all our opinions about everything. And listen, I don't give a shit. I don't give a shit. If you're anti-fascist and you're anti-capitalist, that's enough for me. That's fine. If you're out there doing the necessary preparatory work, but if you sit there and you say that you're a revolutionary, and your actions to be a revolutionary consist of writing a lot of stuff, I don't have any respect for you, and I will get a lot of shit for that. I will get a lot of shit because people say, "Oh, well, we have to have people out there who." No, fuck off. We've got too many. We've got too many people online. We've got too many people trying to do this stuff. Okay, yes, it's important. Right now, though, there is nothing in terms of practice. Like, I go out there, we'll actually talk. I assume we'll talk about my service work in a bit. But like, when you actually go out there and do stuff, people are shocked. You were there with me in Liverpool. I mean, we were out there, helping people out, and people were shocked. They were like, "Oh, what's going on? What's happening?"
Let's just move on to that now, because what we're talking about is a failure in practice and proper practice that could lead to actual class consciousness and organising the people in education towards actually people understanding the role in society. So, what practice should people be doing to you, and are you doing that, rather than being some kind of just hypocrite?
Well, I am doing food service work. I think when we talk about dual power, there's an image, and I will send it to you, so you might want to lump it with the podcast or something. That's a train going over a viaduct, right? And the train is revolution, and on every column of the viaduct, you've got things like community defence, healthcare, food, housing. These are the necessary things that we need in order to build the viaduct so that the train of revolution can pass over. So food service is probably the pillar of that, the central pillar. The reason that I think food service is the central pillar is because, food is the food and water, obviously, are the building blocks, the essential parts of life. But also it doesn't actually cost a lot to do, and it wins over a hell of a lot of people. When we talk about dual power, what we're talking about is basically usurping the role of the state. Now, the role of a state in terms of, we're just talking material here. We're not talking about idealist. The role of a state is to keep its people safe and meet the needs of its people. We can do that. The needs of the lumpen are not being met. The lumpen are not safe. If we, as lumpen, organise ourselves, we start to feed ourselves, we start to clothe ourselves, once we get to a point that we're feeding and clothing ourselves, then we can take another step and we can actually start to secure housing. We can start to secure property. And once that happens, you've got thousands of people who, when they're in need, they don't think, I will go to the capitalist government, I will go to the bourgeoisie and apply for something. They think, I will go to this Lumpen organization because they have fed me, they've clothed me, they've housed me. So, that's what that is. I do food service. I do individual food service in my town. Obviously, I'm going to be hopefully moving up north shortly and joining a group that's going to be doing that on a larger scale. So we're going to be having both fresh food and supplying, weekly food shopping for people. And the reason that that's important is not only because, you can't, if you've got an empty stomach, you can't do anything. If you actually think, some of these people actually think that if they started a revolution now that the Lumpen would come to them, but they wouldn't. The fact is, because they've got no reason to trust a communist. The only thing they know about communism is what they might have seen on TV. But if they are sitting there and they're like, right, I've got to get the hat out, I'll take my guitar down the street, try and make a bit of change. And it's a communist that comes up to them and feeds them. And I'm not saying go out there and preach, by the way. That's the worst thing you can possibly do. Just go out there and give people food. And if they ask, tell them you're a communist, right? But that's, if they get that, they're like, let's be real. I've never met someone from Madagascar. Let's say that the TV told me that the people from Madagascar are dangerous, horrible people that want to steal from you. But then I meet someone from Madagascar and they say, are you all right? Are you hungry? Here's some food. Are you in need of housing? Here's how you can do that. Are you in need of clothing? Here's how you can do that. My opinion on what it means to be a person from Madagascar is going to change. And likewise with communists. I think it's the only way forward. You're never going to be able to out-propagandize. All you can do is build dual power. And quite frankly, people are driven by their stuck. They're driven by their material needs. There's simply no competition when you start to provide for the material needs of the people. That's it. That's revolution being built right there. And you can sit in your, offices and write as many newspapers as you want, write as many articles as you want about how awful it is that this country in this or that year did this or that thing. It's all moot until you meet the needs of the people, I try and do what I can, do a little bit of food service as much as I can. Really, an organization needs to be running that can do that every single day, that can go out on the streets every single day and meet those basic needs. I'm sorry, I got way off the question there, but
no, it was a good point. I would like to add on, just because you did mention about not preaching, just if they ask questions, then tell them. However, I myself, as I like to do it with the food program you helped me set up here in Liverpool, I tell everybody this is from your local revolutionary communist. And like it's even on the short film that I made. It's like you even heard the responses like, "Oh really? Yeah, cool." And then I'm not a communist, but all this is good. But that to me is just like I completely get. Obviously, don't shove it down people's throats. But to me, it's important that especially when you've got so much anti-communist rhetoric out there at the moment, that when I tell people this is from your local revolutionary communist, I don't go into all Marx and theory and all that shit. I just tell them that that next time they hear about communism or a communist from the TV or the bourgeois outlet trying to make us look bad, they're just instantly going to think of free food, caring for the community, hating the parasites in Parliament that are oppressing us all, because that's what I told them. So that to me is important.
Certainly there's a line to walk. I tend to advise against preaching out of overcorrection, because I've actually heard from people that attempted to do a table service in which they were trying to hand out copies of Marx with the fucking sandwich, which is putting this, and so I think there is a line to walk. Certainly let people I really think, at least in my experience, and this, it might be a cultural thing, to be fair, we're from different parts of the country. I've generally found especially when I'm doing street level. So what that means is I've got a bag full of food and I'm walking up to homeless people and offering them stuff, is that generally they will ask why. You know, most of the time, especially if they see me 2 or 3 times, they'll be like, oh, why are you doing this? Because the usual answer is going to be something like, oh, I'm with the church of this and that, you know. But I say, oh, well, I'm a communist and I believe in feeding the lumpen and feeding the people. And the usual question, you know, sometimes that's it. Sometimes, okay. And then sometimes someone will be like, well, what's lumpen mean? Or, oh, what's communism? Have you got anything? And you know, so I think there is a line to walk. It's very important not to basically hold your political. The practice is done, right? The practice needs to be done. Service needs to be done. I think that's the end of the sentence. There is no way on God's green earth that you hold food away from people, or that you tell people they can't have this or that because they're not this and that. And on the other hand, you also don't just feed people and then if they ask, you say, oh, I'm just trying to help. No. Now is the day, you know. So there is a line to walk between that. And I think it really would come down to how confident the person is and what kind of environment that they live in. Certainly, I would say that, you know, I live in a town centre. There are very rough elements in a town centre. There's often lumpen elements in a town centre. There's also bourgeois elements. So it's sometimes based on the culture. But you don't preach, but you also make it clear that you're a communist. And I think that's the line to walk.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, ultimately, I just wanted to stay in the head because I'm just scared, and a lot of other people. This is like one of the criticisms that you can get against like base building strategy is they'll say, oh no, it's just charity, and I hate charity. I don't want to be doing nothing for charity. Charity is for bourgeois, fucking. Not like into passivity. It's basically just trying to address a symptom rather than the cure, and the symptom is obviously capitalism and the cure is socialism. So we don't want to just address an effect, we want to eliminate the cause. We need to be turning people's hunger from capitalism into a hunger for communism.
Absolutely. And may I say, this is why actually that we treat the people that we serve as people. I can't believe that, you know, that's something that I do have to point out, but you're spot on in regards to charity. Look at how charity treats people who need food. You know, it really just dehumanizes people. You know, you have to fill out some form or stand in line, or, you know, it's really, but when you reach out to someone as another person, as your neighbor, as someone who lives in your community, say, all right, mate, here's my name's Ruadhán. How you doing? Would you like some lunch? Oh, what do you want? You know, like, what type do you like? Oh yeah, that's my favorite too, man. So what's your name? Where are you from? That's how you treat people, right? That's something that let's get out there right away. If you treat people in any way as they are subjects and not your equals, you're not a communist, you're just a liberal. And also the difference between something like service work in the aid of dual power versus charity is twofold. The goal, charity has no goal. In fact, charity perpetuates itself. If there was no people left to be charitable towards, that whole, you know, and it's an industry, people are paid a lot of money, that whole industry would collapse.
They fucking buy stocks and shares. Most charities buy weapons and like
they've got 6-figure incomes. The CEOs are earning 6 figures. So that's one thing. The goal of service work in the aid of dual power is to make it so that we never have to do service work again. That's the goal, to be frank. The second element of it is that this is not aid given out of a generous soul. This is a state providing for its people. This is not something that we are doing because we are good. It's not something that we are doing because we care so deeply enough. No, this is a revolutionary strategy. This is we as an as an organization or as a person are claiming the loyalty of the lumpen. Right. And as part of that claiming, as part of that, privilege, we have a responsibility to serve our people, to serve our community, to be to, as I was saying, usurp the power of the state and to be that. So I think that's the defining difference. And sometimes actually the difference between charity and serve the people work is just like materially just comes down to me speaking to someone a little differently. Because when it's just one person, you're just out there giving sandwiches, you can't really claim the power of the state. So there is sort of a worry that becomes charity. And I think the way that is solved is by keeping in mind the long-term goals of your service program. And also these are, remembering that you are serving the people. You're not helping people out or giving people a helping hand or trying to you're there to meet the needs of people whose needs have not been met. In fact, you should be holding your hat in your hands, bawling, apologizing for not being able to fully take care of them. Charity work is often, yes, here it is, and you should thank me for giving it to you. Service work is, yes, this is what I can get, and I am sorry that I cannot get you more yet. And it is, we will work together. We will find out what needs you have and how we can meet them.
Well said. So let me go into what my point in the Lee Park free food program is as a part of Serve the People program, dual power based building, is because I want to get out there. Obviously, people are hungry. I think it's like you've got more McDonald's and Burger Kings than food banks. No, you've got more food banks than McDonald's and Burger Kings combined in the UK. I think it's like fucking 82% or something of food bank recipients are like fucking in like dire poverty. Like 30 odd percent of them, I've got the fucking statistics here, 30 odd percent of them are fucking disabled. So, there's a lot of people who aren't getting food, aren't getting nutrition. The state's not providing for them. We have to build a communist state within a state so that when the state inevitably collapses, because that's our goal as communists, there's still a state there to support people. You have a community that knows each other. You have neighbours that actually know the next door neighbour and the neighbour beyond that and the neighbour beyond that. You have people talking on, groups or WhatsApp messages. Communicating, supporting each other. I've got this extra, do you need this? Giving it care in each other. How are you supposed to defend people in the community when you don't even know them? If you got to know these people, you're going to care
the amount
of
of times I've had to say on Twitter to some, stuck up so-called communist that, thinks they're better than me. I say, what's your neighbour's name? What's your next door neighbour's name? Fast, reply. And they don't reply because they don't know it. That's the sad thing is they sit there and they say, well, I'm a revolutionary communist. Okay. What's the name? Like, I'm sure there is a regular homeless person in your town centre. What's his name? Oh, you don't know it? Then you're not a revolutionary communist. You're an aristocrat. You're an aristocrat who enjoys reading Marx. Yeah. But that's not what being a revolutionary communist is.
Yeah, and also it's what we're against. Obviously, I just shared it on Twitter before. Dixieland shared that app, makes me laugh. It shouldn't. But Dixieland, the Politeria podcast, they were invited to participate in a UMWA strike fest, and due to miscommunication, some miners believed that they were another unwelcome group. The unwelcome group was World Socialist Party of America. So obviously these got the table flipped upside down by the workers. The workers didn't welcome them. So that's the problem that we've got today is workers not even liking socialists because socialists are that cringe. They're that cringe, they're that sad, they're that pitiful, that they represent the aristocrats and their thoughts and ideas more than the workers, it seems. And is this where you want Marxism going? Is this where you want socialism going? A lot of Marxists, like a large proportion of Marxists and socialists today, people are cringe as fuck. You can't be standing for it.
I think you're fucking spot on, Jimmy. And have you ever seen the film, or do you know the story of Pride, which is back during the miners' strike in the 80s? And actually, the left wing was on the miners' side. All the communists were on the miners' side. Right, all of them. And of course, there are a few very, very good communists who do, but the vast majority of, how that expressed itself was a lot of really scathing, satirical articles on Thatcher, and it was and at this time, of course, you remember, gays and lesbians really were very, very harshly treated in the UK. I think it either just been made legal or is still illegal. And they went down physically. They got a fucking van. They went around all the gay areas and they said, right, put some money in this pot. And they went down to Wales and they gave the money in person. And these miners who come from this, with all due respect, relatively socially backward place, embraced these comrades with open arms. That the love and community and solidarity between those groups was the reason that a few years later that a gay rights bill passed through the Labour Party, because the trade unions said yes. And they voted yes because they saw the material, they saw physically people coming into their community with buckets of cash. So like, this is what you need. We're here to provide it. What else would you like? What else can we do? And that's the way to do it. And I think that there are so many communists who seem entitled to the loyalty of the workers when they have done nothing. They haven't done 1/100th of that. They have barely even opened their own pockets. In fact, their budget goes to the, media makers. They might spend 15, 20, 30 pounds a month subsidizing this or that. And yet they would walk past a homeless person and they wouldn't even give the change off their pocket. They would walk past a strike and they would say, oh, you guys aren't doing it right. This is what you need to do. Instead of being like, what do you need and how can I help? Because I would say this, if I don't like Trotskyists. There was a Trotskyist group blockading an arms factory that was sending arms to Israel. And I was there. I would go down there and say, okay, guys, what do you need and how can I help? That's what solidarity, that's how we shed this image of the cringe communist, because the cringe communist comes from someone waltzing into a place that they have no idea what's going on and thinking that they're a genius and thinking that everyone needs to listen to them and that they're in charge. I don't know where the arrogance comes from, to be frank, but it exists. And the only way to solve that is, and Lumpen know how to do this. For some reason, I don't know why, the proletariat has forgotten how, the communist proletariat, the communist, aristocracy don't know how to do this. Put your hat in your hand and say, hello, how can I help? They don't know how to say that. All they know how to say is, here's how you're wrong and I'm right. And that's the reason why they're not revolutionary and we are.
I mean, the most of these workers' interests that these communists, these so-called socialist communists have got is they want to fucking write an article for the fucking newspaper to sell. That's probably the extent of the actual fucking how much they care about what's going on. But just so we don't get fucking too distracted and just stay on to why I'm doing this base building is because I know for a fact that no matter how much you protest for anything in the city centre, it's not going to reach the people's ears in my community, my neighbours who have never seen a protest in their lives because they don't live in the city centre of a weekend. They fucking probably still work. I haven't been able to attend a protest in close to a year because all the protests are organised literally on days when I work. So what the fuck's that about? You know what I'm saying? It just blows my mind that if you truly want the people and the masses to hear about your fucking communist revolutionary ideas that's going to emancipate us all, go to the fucking streets where they live.
And what's more than that, I will just say, if you want people to attend protest, okay, where's your childcare? Where's your childcare? Yeah. How many people have kids and they can't go out into the town centre for a couple of hours and leave them be? So where's your childcare? Where's the food and water being provided for if you're going to be standing out in a hot summer street in the middle of the day? Where's that being provided? Where's the transport? Where's the buses that are getting people from the suburbs into the city centre? I'm not against protesters, as I'm sure you're not, Shibby, but that's the things that if you actually want it to be effective, that's what you have to do.
Yeah,
You
because
know,
we're
you
talking
have
about
to
money
make sure
of
people can
social
attend.
power now as well, because now they need money to get into the city centre because you're not providing transport, you're not providing the food, and now these people who literally don't have the social power from having money, they're not able to do that. So they're disempowered. So they're still here now, ostracized from your own organisations, and where you should be trying to bring these masses of people in. But instead, you just want nice little students there who fucking don't pipe up, who don't get angry, who aren't going to irritate the police, who aren't going to actually kick off and actually start something like fucking setting something on fire that's going to draw mass world fucking news coverage to your movements. You don't want none of that. You just want a nice little fucking day out for your fucking Instagram. Well, so let's go on to again just what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to educate people here, but obviously at first we've got to feed them. These people need to know each other. They need to trust me. These people have phoned me up saying how grateful they are, and I spoke to them one-on-one for like 10-15 minutes, and I've even had a meeting with numerous residents in the garden, all sat around now to smoke and talk about what it was in there, and that's where I actually even had to like combat racism within my community, which you're gonna inevitably have to do all around the country. Is you're gonna hear things where people are saying the problem isn't fucking, this and that. The problem is just that our government doesn't look after its own. It fucking brings all these other people in the case for all these with all benefits and saying, no, you don't get it. There's a fucking wealthy ruling class and capitalist
Yeah.
businesses.
We're not their own, you know.
Yeah, well, it's like they're looking after their own. Don't you worry about it. But we've got more in common with black people, fucking brown people, Asian, all of that. And because people like you thinking these things is like arguing against each other, when we all know for a fact that these are the ones who have all the powers that we've got no power for to make no change. Every problem in the world are literally made by people through legislation. These are the parasites in power who live in better than all of us, like kings. You know what I'm saying? And then they're just kind of like, oh yeah. So like basically, you got to address these like myths. You got to address racism. You got to address solidarity, and you got to express love and community. And like if you're talking to like people who are older than 30, 40, even older, to them they know the community like for years and years and years and years and years and decades. You know what I'm saying? They lived in times where the community did know each other. And then you can say, remember what that was like when you knew each other, and how much has it changed, and you learn from that. How much has changed, how many new people come in, how many have left, why, what changes there's been in the community. And then you start to like bring up the culture of the community as well, and start to understand the community from the actual residents' understanding and perspective, and saying, well, wouldn't it be good to build a new culture again, and the community culture. So again, but Malcolm X movement giving me amazing ideas. We're going to fill in a load of open grassy places that's not being used for nothing. We're going to get loads of flowers in there, loads of plants, a nice little community garden. It's gorgeous and has people walking past thinking, yeah, I've actually got a nice thing, and they're going to know it comes from the Save the People program. So one, people need to realise that the people are funding the people because of like a communist fucking podcast. The idea is to support this community so that the community can actually know each other and not be alienated from each other. And then the next goal is we want to do like constant or weekly or every fortnight fresh food table service, so people see us in presence. They don't just get the food delivered to the house because of COVID contactless. Then they see the fresh food. I'll do that with the residents soon, and then hopefully a couple of months down the line we've got more support on Patreon. So if you don't support us on Patreon already, please do. It's going to go towards this amazing shit, and you're going to see all videos and pictures and all this shit, and as we build the goddamn base in my community. And then
I will say as well, we there is a PayPal donation for if you do want to just donate the once as well for the food program.
So yeah, send us that now. I'll include in the show notes. And then after the hot food, what we want to do is then we can just sit back and go, okay, so we're all here. There's a good number of us. Let's do film shows. Let's do educational. So then we can get them to watch fucking the Fred Hampton documentary and look into the Black Panthers work. Look into fucking the Che films, look into the Battle of Algiers, where the Lumpen lead the struggle against French colonialism in Algeria. These are revolutionary films that start them thinking. Revolution has literally happened, and then we can start to provide them educational sessions. And then the
Definitely.
ones who are interested will come along to the educational sessions. Then that's when they themselves will become educators and organic intellectuals. And because what we need from this base building is, again, it's not just charity, it's to build movements. Once we have enough of this infrastructure going around, we can build more and more programs. Then all the other states are jealous, and then we can branch out to them, and then keep moving forward. And hopefully by the time we get some comrades up in Liverpool, there's already going to be some infrastructure and some comrades to help us out who were otherwise just like untapped revolutionary potential in the community as Lumpen. And then also, whilst we do that, as we prove to these communist organisations with branches up and down the country, across the world, having untold sums coming in from newspaper subscriptions, all these donations from everybody everywhere, and then we can apply the pressure onto their necks and say, why aren't you doing this? Why aren't, to be honest, the only good thing that comes from organisations like that is you end up with a radicalised shibby. You end up with a radicalised me. But then what do you get when you have people radicalised and waiting and eager to push the revolutionary struggle forward? What's the point in radicalising me if you're not going to listen to me once I've been radicalised and once I've learned and once I know how to be a good Marxist and direct the proportion to the differences? I've got to do this shit by myself in my community first, just like that video which we recorded this setting up is called Save the People Lumpen. That's telling the Lumpen, that's telling you listening, go out and do this in your community. If you live in the UK, come up to Liverpool, we'll do it together. I'll show you what we've got going, how it's done, and I'll give you more confidence. It's an open invitation to anybody in England, Liverpool, or fucking the UK. Come to my house, I'll literally let you, and then we'll do this shit together, and then maybe I'll come up to yours and help you maybe with Ruadhán here, and then we'll set this shit up. We're building up actual power, organisations here, but it just takes time. It takes support from you because we're doing the right motherfucking strategy. We're doing it. We just need more support.
And can I say, obviously, 100%, and that goes out to me too. If you need any support in doing if it's only you and you're in a small town, especially, or if you're in the countryside, I've got a lot of good advice for how to get started on that front. I will say actually, and I think that actually ties up to what you were just saying, that someone will radicalise you and then not listen to you. You were talking earlier about how you got all the people that were involved in the food grant, or we want to get the people that are involved in it, the people that are receiving it, come to a meeting every so, even if it's just once a month, just have a chat, sit around and say, even just say, it's a party for the food program, it's a celebration, and use that as the opportunity to speak to people and to listen to the mass and listen to the Lumpen, because, you can go out there and we can go out there and we can be given nice food and stuff. And if we don't listen to the people, we won't realise, actually, we've made a big mistake. There are 2 or 3 big mistakes here. But, we're not going to see it unless we engage directly with the people that we're serving. And that's the difference. That's also a difference between serving the people and charity. Charity says people are hungry, so we will provide them food. Serving the people says people are hungry. Let's give them some food and then ask them how we can help make sure they're not hungry in the future. Here's, give them food and then listen. How can we do better? How can we make it, better? How can we make sure that nobody goes hungry? And I think actually having that reflective process of the people that we serve are our community, and our community is in control of the program. That's the key there, that we are held to and responsible by the community because we are of the community. We are Lumpen ourselves. We know how, and we know how to interface with other Lumpen. That's so important. It's so important because otherwise you end up doing something you think is very good and very, helpful and progressive, and people are just don't engage with it because you actually haven't met their needs. You've met what you've assumed their needs to be. So I think definitely having those kind of, even just casual film nights, as you were saying, even outside of a purely formalized educational process. Just having people in the room listening and talking and sharing their, as you said, perhaps racist ideas even, because it's good, because it means they feel comfortable to share their ideas, and it also means we get the chance to rebuke those ideas in public, and to, so absolutely. Fuck yeah.
That's well said. But I mean, that's it. What you're dealing with, any good Marxist knows, you're not dealing with people and their ideas. You're dealing with the ideas. You've heard 1 billion over times because it's just liberalism. You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, people would just put that into their own words, but it's nothing we can't handle. It's nothing we haven't dealt with, because people have been fucking arguing with each other online for decades. The difference is go out and fucking put it into the real world. Again, both myself and Roon, you could have us both come up to your place, or even just messaging you.
You could have us both.
I mean, obviously, you get the fucking dream team. Honestly, I don't know what more you want from us, people. Fucking hell. Don't know what more you want from us. We're fucking doing podcasts. We're fucking got a good subreddit, and we're going out doing good work in the community, as well as being wage slaves. Honest to God, I'm just doing what I can, you know what I'm saying? Hopefully I'll quit being a wage slave and then do a lot more podcasts with him, but there's loads there backed up because I've been working so much and waiting for 2 weeks off. I'll get that off next week. I'll catch up, and then you'll have some boss interviews from other communist organisations in the UK, as well as just amazing guests. But yeah, I think that we're good there. I think that we should definitely follow this up in a couple of months and then review some progress on both my service and your service, and just have another discussion on the relation between this practice versus the current ongoing practice in the left again.
Oh, absolutely. And I think this has been a great little discussion about the importance of service, and talk a little bit about it. And perhaps even when we have that follow-up, we can talk a bit more about actually practically what a person might need to sort of start this work. That might be a good idea as well. But yeah, fantastic chat as always, Shivy.
Yeah, we always have I know, as always. Love you. When are you going to come up here again?
When I'm paid. Well, not this month, not June, but maybe around my birthday. So
I could be able to. I'll probably likely come up to yours next month and see what your service looks like.
Hell yeah, that'd be great.
I'll have decent money because I fucking scotched all my debt. So, yes, nice. I'll do that.
Actually, I'm just thinking, probably cut this out of the episode. Actually, my neighbour, she wants her son to do something like that around the. I don't know when that's going to be. I think I might be. I'll ask her, because she saw me doing the sandwich work, and she's like, "Oh, that's so nice." And she gave me a bit of money towards it. And she has a sort of son my age, and she was like, "Take my son and teach him how to go out and feed people." And I was like, "Of course!"
Yeah. That's it. This is where you become the mummy state already. It's already happening, comrade.
I'm already. I've got a little gaggle of people following me. I love it. That's the thing, even in my little small town, because I speak to my neighbours, people are out there. People will put their hands in their pockets. People that I've heard speak silly right-wing rhetoric from the Daily Mail or whatever. They hear what I do and they put their hands in their pockets. Quite frankly, So I think that it really is the amount of. I've spoken to 1,000 people about dual power work. Of those 1,000, only one of them will actually do it. But there is so much anxiety and trying to overthink it. I was talking to someone who's like, "Oh, well, what am I going to do if someone says this?" I was like, "What would you do if you're walking down the street and someone says something to you? You just deal with it as it comes. There's no need to overthink this. It is purely just go out there and meet the needs of the people. Go out there. That's what you need to do and start. If you don't know anyone, if you don't know your neighbours, if you don't know your local Lumpen people, that's what you have to do. Go out there and meet them. Get some cigarettes in your pocket or some baccy in your pocket. Get a little bit of change. Get some, fucking sandwiches and some bottles of flavoured water, and go out there and say hello. That's what you need to do, Yeah.
Yeah, so we done a short film, didn't we? You see us in action. It's called Serve the People, Lumpen, and that's an order coming from the Vanguard. That's literally an order for you, Lumpen. If you fail to do this, or if you fail to follow up on this order, then don't come at me when we still live under capitalism 20 years into the future. I fucking told you 20 years ago what you need to be doing. Jesus Christ. So, let's just have a shout out to everybody who's made this happen as well, and followed us from the start and continue to support us and continue to do just that. And really want to make all of our actual Patreon supporters dead proud here, because we're doing some good shit here, and no other, a lot of other content creators or podcasters, YouTubers like fucking Paul Backwards Modern and all that shit don't do none of this. They just scrounge. But we're doing some good shit here.
So-called online personalities,
Yeah, just part of this cringe left. So let's just say thank you, Jake, Joe, Rev Left Radio, The Mass Line, Jessica. Fucking always. Gemma, Mary, Seville, Awu, Sir Meg, Val, Stephen, Emily, Lucy, some random leftist, Kieran, Monkey D. Lennon, Balti, Nico, and Adriana. Thank you so much. Woo! Everybody else gives you the clapping around of applause for being actual fucking communists and putting your money where it matters. No, we love and appreciate all of you, and to all of those who don't support us on Patreon, we love you too, just not as much. But maybe that's because you don't love the Lumpen as much. I don't know. Okay, so we'll love yous and leave yous. Thanks for joining us, and that's some good shit.
Oh, thank you for having me, Shiri. I'll probably be on sooner than you think.
Yeah. Well, I'll probably speak to you all day long now. Take it easy.
And anyone who's listening, you can speak to me if you like, because I'm a fantastic conversationalist on the Discord as well. You should definitely join that.
Yeah, if you want anybody to go to your social media or anything, just let me know and I'll include them into the show notes. But yeah, just a regular actual moderator on the Discord as well, where we're trying to organise all of our Lumpen work and build on it. So definitely come and check that out, everybody. It'd be good to see us. Don't be shy as well. It's not one of those cringe shit posting Discord servers. It's not dead super active like many others, but you also don't get all the shit posting, and all the comrades are literally super fucking cool comrades that have either been on the podcast as guests or just cool motherfuckers. What can I say? Yeah, so thanks for that. Peace, love, solidarity, workers and lumpen of the world. Unite.
Say so, I do as you please. My heart falls right out of my sleeve. No other words make me feel the way yours do, and it's the way you say them. You say so, I do as you please. My heart falls right out of my sleeve. No other words make me feel the way yours do, and it's the way you say them. Under the night sky, I am yours. Only in your eyes I see more. You give me a feeling, it's more than enough. Give me a reason to love you, to love. Give me a reason to love you, to love. Give me a reason to love you, to love. Give me a reason to love you, to love. Give me a reason to love you, to love, to love you, to love. knows in my mind, yours to be forever in time. No other words make me feel the way yours do, and it's the way you say them. You say so, I do as you please. My heart falls right out of my sleeve. No other words make me feel the way yours do, and it's the way you say them. Under the night sky, I am yours. Only in your eyes I see more. You give me a feeling, it's more than enough. Give me